Hello everyone! I really am wondering if any of you have ever seen this game, as I find the game pretty amazing and I don't know, it's kind of weird that no channel on YouTube decided to show this game. As, well, this was the Candidates Tournament in 1985 and the purpose of this tournament was to determine the challengers of the winner of the match, Kasparov-Karpov. And it's played between Jan Timman, who is a well-known grandmaster, and the Canadian grandmaster Kevin Spragget. And I've never actually heard of Kevin Spragget, but he is the fourth Canadian to ever win the title of Grandmaster, and he is the only Canadian Grandmaster to ever compete in the Candidates Tournament. So although Mr. Kevin Spragget won last place and at this tournament, he actually played a brilliant game against Jan Timman, who finished fourth in this tournament. So let's see this game. It's quite a fascinating game. I mean, a piece sacrifice in this game is like none other. It's not a sacrifice, to attack your opponent or anything like that. It's just a weird positional sacrifice, but it's quite pleasing. So Mr. Jan Timman has the white pieces and Kevin Spragget has the black pieces. We have d4, e6, c4, and we have bishop to b4 with check. This is the Keres defense by the great Paul Keres. We have bishop to d2 and now queen to e7, and Mr. Spragget says that he plays queen to e7 following the analysis of Paul Keres himself, and Paul says that this is a great move. But later it was determined that it's really not. But nevertheless, Spragget follows this. So we have e4, and now again Spragget plays a move suggested by Paul Keres. He plays d5, and to this Jan Timman replies e5. And here Spragget says that, well, he doesn't really like his position now, as he doesn't really understand how to attack white's center. He says that c5 isn't really good after bishop captures on b4, and f6 isn't really something to hope for with black, as he doesn't really see him capturing f captures on e5. So here, after some thinking, Mr. Spragget summons his inner Nimzovich and plays knight to c6, as he decides to attack the pawn center with his pieces. We have knight to f3 by Timman, and bishop captures on d2. Queen captures on d2, and now d captures on c4. We have knight to c3 by Timman, and knight to h6. We have d5, and this d5 isn't really the best move, as Mr. Spragget says. Jan Timman totally disregarded a move that Mr. Spragget can play here, as Kevin plays knight captures on e5. And what kind of a move is this? I mean, obviously it's a piece sacrifice, but why? We have knight captures on e5 and now e captures on d5. And okay, this opens up the attack from the queen on this knight. The knight is pinned, so obviously black will win the piece back at some point by playing f6. But we have queen to e2, now defending the knight. And well, now f6 isn't really doing anything, and Jan Timman is threatening knight captures on d5. So how do you win the piece back? Well, the thing is you don't, as Mr. Spragget plays bishop to e6. He doesn't mind this being down a piece in a position like this. Jan Timman castles queenside, and we have c6 here. And what's the idea? Well, the idea is that this queen had to go to e2 to protect this knight on e5, and now she's blocking this bishop's path into the game, and also by blocking the bishop, he's also blocking his rook on h1 from coming into the game. So until white figures out how to get his pieces into the game, it's really not like black is down a piece. So this is actually a brilliant idea. We have knight back to f3, and now castle. Knight to d4, and we have rook 8 to e8. Now, both the rook and the queen are eyeing this queen on e2. We have g3 preparing to play bishop to g2, but now b5, and this is a very powerful pawn storm after a5 joins in. We have knight captures on e6, f captures on e6, and f4. And here, well, this is a very interesting idea, as black is still down a piece. He plays e5. And here we have f captures on e5 and knight to f7, going for that e5 pawn. But now, as the white is up a piece, he plays e6. He doesn't mind giving up this pawn. And we have queen captures on e6. Black even trades queens being down a piece. So queen captures on e6, rook captures on e6, and well, in this position white does want to develop his pieces. Playing bishop to g2 doesn't really promise that much, as this pawn on d5 isn't really going anywhere. And on bishop to h3, rook to h6 is undermining the bishop. So white tries knight to e2, going for that d4 square, attacking the rook and the c6 pawn. We have rook to e3, and now king to b1. We have knight to e5, preparing to go to d3 with the knight. So we have knight to f4, now the bishop is protecting d3. And we have g5, kicking that knight away from f4. We have knight to e6, with an attack on this rook on f8. Rook to f5. And here knight to d4, now attacking again this rook on f5. Rook to f2, and we have g4. And Timon gets an idea that he would really like to give up this pawn, because after knight captures on g4, rook to g1, and well, white is getting back into the game after h5 and h3. White is okay here. This is, well, white is still up a piece, but black's pawns are pretty strong, so this would probably be something like a draw. But after g4, Mr. Spragget plays rook to e4, now attacking this pawn with the rook. So Timon defends this with h3, and we have b4. The pawns are going forward. Knight to c2, and we have a5 defending the b4 pawn. And here Jan Timon was in a serious time trouble, and well, probably a move like I don't know, b3, or maybe even h4, trying to get his rook into the game would have been better, but he played a3. And well, we have b3 here. And Timon wasn't really afraid of this, as he thought he had this move knight to d4. Although here you don't really want to play knight to a1, that's just a silly place to put your knight, or maybe knight to e1. Oh, you always want to go forward with your pieces. So we have knight to d4. And well, here this was actually a huge blunder, and Mr. Kevin Spragget punishes this. Well, he really punishes it, and I will invite you to find the move that punishes this knight to d4 idea. So I will give it a couple of seconds if you want to pause the video and find the move for yourselves. Okay. Well, for those of you who found the move, congratulations. It's quite an interesting move, and for those of you who just want to see the move, Mr. Kevin Spragget played rook to d2, and in this position, Mr. Jan Timon resigned the game, as there is nothing for him to do here. The idea is, after rook captures rook, simply rook to e1 check, and the king has nowhere to go. White has to block this, rook to d1, and rook captures on d1 is checkmate. So after rook to d2, white could try something like bishop to e2, but this simply loses a piece with rook captures knight. And although white isn't down a piece because he was up a piece for the entire game, but black is up 3 pawns, white can't hold this. So after something like rook to f1, simply rook captures, bishop captures, and this is completely winning for black, as he is up 3 pawns. So after this beautiful rook to d2 idea, Jan Timon resigned the game. So I think it's a pretty amazing game, as black was down a piece for the entire game. I mean, he did have this huge pawn chain on the queen side, but now he finally equalizes, he finally gets back the piece, and now white has to resign, because, you know, the position is too overwhelming for him. So yeah, definitely an interesting game, and I didn't really, I was just interested to see if any of you have seen this game, so I didn't really think of a title for this game. I do invite you, as I mean, if you enjoyed this game, I would like you to suggest a title, so I will change the title of the video. So yeah, and okay, one more interesting fact. I found this to be very disturbing in a number of ways. When I searched for a photo of Mr. Kevin Spragget, I googled Kevin Spragget, and after you Google Kevin Spragget and click images, you get well, a large amount of naked ladies for some reason. I don't know what is this reason. Maybe Mr. Kevin Spragget did some photography on the side of chess. Who knows? If you do, please do share in the comments. So yeah, that's it. I hope you enjoyed the game. As like I said, I don't think any channel covered this game so far. Thank you all for watching. As usual, you can check 2 of my previous videos here. And yeah, I'll see you soon.